Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you this. Have you ever found yourself texting someone again and again and again just to get one word answers or no reply at all? Or maybe you've been planning, you've bent over backwards trying to have the perfect outing only for them to cancel last minute. Or maybe you're married and feel like you're always the one pursuing for intimacy or reminding them to do that one thing that's on your honey-do list. Let's just save ourselves the trouble. We all know that chasing doesn't work. But the good news is leading and clear communication does. So today we're going to talk about it and break it all down. Welcome back to Off Limits. Off Limits. Still trying to figure out that perfect jingle for the podcast where love, biology, and humor collide. I'm your host, Ellen Roers. You can call me Elle. And today's episode is all about shifting from chasing to attracting in dating, marriage, and life. We'll explore why nagging or poor communication and over pursuing fail, how men can lead instead of chase, and how women can communicate their needs in the proper manner. Oh, and by the way, since this is a playbook for both men and women, you're probably going to know exactly what the other is up to. But hey, if we're all on the same page, doesn't that just make relationships easier? So let's just jump right in. So, why chasing doesn't work? First, let's talk about what happens when you chase. Whether you're a man or a woman, chasing looks the same. Constant text, overthinking every word, and rearranging your life to get their attention. And I can tell you, I've been there, right? I've grown to get out of that mode, but I absolutely in my 20s, maybe even my early 30s, I was doing some of that. So I can play devil's advocate here. So, excuse me, on the surface, it might seem like you're showing effort, and you are. Absolutely. It's all good intentions. But here's the problem: chasing signals desperation. When you're chasing even a job, right? Chasing in general in the wrong ways, when it's kind of obsessive, looks like desperation. So we can think about it in all areas of life. You even think about, um, when I'm going after my little nephews and wanting to hold them and pick them up, if I'm if they don't even know that I'm not paying attention to them, they'll come up to me. But as soon as I go after them, they're like, I don't want to be around Auntie Elle. So that's just a simple example. So you can think of a certain example in your life and hopefully relate to it. But again, the problem, chasing signals desperation. It tells the other person that your focus is entirely on them, which can feel overwhelming and even unattractive, especially in the dating world or relationship world. So let's break it down on why it fails. Chasing comes from a place of scarcity. It's the mindset that says, if I don't try hard enough, I'll lose them. And again, put this into your own situation because these are a little more specific. So again, it comes from a place of scarcity. That's the number one failure of it. Nagging can create that resistance because it feels like criticism instead of connection. It's just that tone, even if it comes through, I know that I've asked people to do things over and over again before, but it's always that tone. So when it becomes a little bit more elevated in a negative way, then it becomes to be nagging. Attraction, on the other hand, happens when both people feel respected, valued, and understood. So it's so important to let go of the chasing, let go of the poor communication or the tone to really allow for proper attraction in all areas. So, a couple real life examples that I can think of. Imagine this: a guy who has been on one date keeps texting her multiple times a day instead of feeling flattered as a woman. The woman feels overwhelmed. And I can tell you, I have been there before. Just recently, I went to a speed dating event. It was great. And I met so many good men. There were lots of guys, lots of women, and they kind of put you, they break you up into groups or not even groups. You have one-on-one dates for 10 minutes. So I got to meet 8 gentlemen, 10 minutes each. And then the great thing is you can rank them, not rank them, but you don't have to match with them later. Anyways, I won't bore you with all the details. Bottom line is there were only two guys that I really wanted to continue to talk with after the dating event. So the next day they'll tell you who you match up with. And so one of the guys that I thought, oh, he seems pretty great. I'd like to get to know him more. Immediately, like I think he thought we were married or something. It was so crazy, you guys. So this is where men, for you to kind of remember that it takes it's like a different energy. The energy that he came forward with me wasn't just genuine trying to get to know me. It was like he already owned me and it felt creepy, really creepy. So that's one example. Another real life example you can think about, let's see. I hear my girlfriends talk about this. Let's say their husband has a honey-do list to fix the faucet, but she just keeps pushing and pushing and only gets frustrated. And then when he doesn't do it immediately, the more she begs and pleads, the more he retreats. So both of these examples are classic examples of chasing and poor communication. So communication gone wrong that leads to lack of attraction, lack of intimacy. It just all builds up, right? So carrying on, here's a little tip for the men on leading versus chasing. I would say for the gentleman out there, leading instead of chasing is about confidence and clarity. It's about showing up in a way that makes your partner feel safe, supported, and desired without being creepy, right? Like my example. So here's how you're going to set the tone. These are just some practical tips. So setting the tone is number one. If your wife is in the mood, for example, for intimacy, instead of pushing, create an environment of connection. So this is funny too, because I'll hear a lot of my gal pals say, "Oh, I always know when he wants some action because he starts to do all these sweet things." So my biggest tip to you men is be consistent. And that's actually number two. So we'll get to number two on consistency. But if you can really make this happen throughout the week, through the month, through the year, it's not just when you're wanting some, should we say the P word? I don't always like that word, but when you're wanting some action or intimacy. And us women want it too. Trust me, especially when we're ovulating. And that's another topic for another day. So if you know when she's ovulating, that's your extra time to really set the mood. But it is in general just being sweet with the simple things. So if it is her honey-do list, make sure you're getting those done. If you know that she loves a full tank of gas, fill her car up when you take her vehicle, fill it up, get a car wash. Those are the little things that go so far. Planning a dinner event or planning an event for her. If you notice she's had a rough day with the kids or with work, plan something fun for her. So those are the ways that you can set the tone throughout the week, throughout the month. And here's kind of a quick example. Instead of saying, "Why aren't you ever in the mood?" to your wife or to your significant other, say, "You know what? I've planned a cozy night in for us. No pressure. Just want us to relax. Maybe you have our favorite bottle of wine or favorite treats." And this just builds trust and removes the pressure. Can also be as simple as saying, we haven't had a lot of good one-on-one. If you've read Gary Chapman, you know all about the love languages. So men, it can be as simple as knowing her love language. And if it is about, words of affirmation, that's a little bit of an easier one. You're just telling her what she wants to hear and needs to hear, what you feel about her. That's great. If she's one that's quality time, then it could be about, "Hey, let's put our cell phones away. I want to have just 2 hours of you and I conversation." Maybe you find some fun questions to ask her. There's so many other things. And this flip side can be for you too, women. So I'm not just talking to the men. It's both of us understanding each other and what our needs are and what we value in relationships. Okay, so that's setting the tone, number one. The second practical tip would be consistent. So I alluded to that a little bit, but consistency really builds that trust. If she knows that she can rely on you, she'll feel more open to connecting. And again, if it's not just the specific time that you're wanting something from her. So, here's a little story. I remember a friend of mine who always kept um, her word, and whether it was just showing up on time or following through with a small promise, it feels so good when you have somebody that follows through. You can count on them. So simple, but it's so important. Consistency. The third thing would be focused on shared moments. So instead of demanding intimacy, and I know I keep going back to that one just because it's an easy one to talk about, invest in moments that build emotional closeness. So I alluded to a lot of that in that prior one for setting the tone, but cooking together, taking a walk, having those emotional connections, or being aware of when she needs something. So even if it's as simple as, "You know what, it looks like you've had a rough day. Why don't go retreat to the bedroom. I've got this. I've got the kids. I'll clean up the kitchen. You go take a hot bubble bath and I will see you later." Those are the kind of things that you can really do to improve. So let's go to the women and men. This can be for you too if you find your communication isn't strong. Um, but women on the communicating side, it would be fair to say that we've all been there. I definitely have, ladies. I've absolutely been there. Say the garbage. Let's give an example. The garbage hasn't been taken out. The honeydew list is piling up, and it feels like you have to repeat yourself a million times, a million times, a million times. I will tell you though, the nagging or that poor communication rarely works, and it actually makes the man tune out. Same thing for us. If a man was communicating to us that way, we would absolutely tune out. So here's some practical tips for the communication side. So frame requests as collaboration, meaning if you're kind of doing it as a team effort, it's a little gentler to hear it, right? So instead of saying something like, you never help me around the house in an awful tone, you just never help, you're never listening to what I have to say, blah, blah, blah. Um, you can say something like, can we tackle this together? I really need your help. It would mean so much to me. So it's more like asking them. Sometimes they don't even know what you need, even though if it's as simple as the garbage, but there's some underlying things to it, right? So just really expressing, gosh, this would really help me out. It'd mean a lot to me. And it's all about that tone, simple, quiet, easy tone. Men are simple in real life. When they know that you're happy, they're happy. So positive reinforcement is key. The second tip would be positive reinforcement. So when he does something that you've asked for, this is all the basic stuff, right? We know this. Acknowledge it. Gratitude goes a long way. So instead of focusing on what he didn't do, focus on all the good that he did do. Say, thank you so much for taking care of the dishes. I so appreciate it. I appreciate it more than you know. And final third little tip that I'll give is pick your timing. So, this is goes for us women too. I would say the first day of the month when we're in our menstruation time, probably not the best time for a man to have a discussion with us. But same for women. If you're noticing that your guy had a stressful day at work, maybe he's in the middle of decompressing, he just got home. Probably not the best time to bring it up. So timing is everything. Make sure that he's in a good place. So again, if he's watching his favorite game, it's not the time to get upset with him. Save it, save the discussion, the task for once he's done, he'll be much more effective. So simple tips, but so important to be reminded of it. So bigger picture, let's look at the bigger picture and kind of how to attract over put pressure on someone. So that attraction is key. When you have too much pressure, people shut down. So at the end of the day, relationships thrive when both people feel respected and valued. So chasing, negating that poor communication really create pressure. But leading and communicating creates space for connection. So when you can really lead and communicate properly, you'll see your relationships shine. So when men lead with confidence and care, women naturally respond with warmth and affection. It's just a no-brainer. It sounds simpler than it is, but these are good reminders for us. When women communicate in a sweet, passionate, appreciative way, men are much more motivated to step up. So the science-backed insight here is studies really show that people respond better to positive reinforcement than criticism, and attraction goes in an environment of respect and appreciation. So that is the best way to just kind of grow and nurture your relationship. So some of the top actionable takeaways to leave you with is really tips for both men and women. Again, lead with intention, create moments of connection without expecting anything in return. That's key. No expectations. Be present. Show each other that you value them. Give their full attention or give you their full attention, vice versa. Be patient. Connection takes time. Focus on the journey, not the immediate result. So that would be for the guy that was pursuing me so hard, you know, again, I would have been much more receptive if he just took a little step back and didn't fall in love with me after 10 minutes. Yes, it's flattering to hear that I'm beautiful, but to the extent that he went on was really, like I said, creepy. I'm like, how do you know, you're giving me too much. It just felt really odd to the point that even said, I feel like I'm losing in this. And I'm like, well, there's nothing to lose because you didn't have me. We weren't in anything. We just met. So Anyways, I don't want to take away from a man that is trying to win a woman over. I just want to give these tips to be a little more careful about it. And sometimes my examples, they're just worth bringing up. So I just want everyone to have success in their relationships. So a couple other things. Communicate, blah, blah, blah. Communicate clearly. My nose is still stuffed up, so it's hard to enunciate my words. Make requests without criticizing or frustrating the person. Show appreciation. Recognize the effort, even the small things. And that is the thing for men to remember. It's those small little details, especially in a relationship, that put women at ease. We love that. We love the small details that you pay attention to more than the big ones, even, honestly. Most women. So, and then choose connection over correction. So, yes, it's easy to want to correct somebody, but if you can just connect by being grateful, having gratitude, focus on building the relationship instead of pointing out the flaws, that's key. So, a couple exercises that you can do, some reflection. Men, think about one way that you can lead your relationship this week, even. So, this week without expectation. And what does that look like? So again, find out what is most important to her. And you can even ask her, hey, if there were a couple top 5 things that I could do each day or each week, what would they be? And start to implement those, and she'll love it. And then reflection for women, what are some of the things that you can communicate more clearly and kindly without being passive aggressive or nagging? And start practicing that today too, because you'll see, when you take the higher road and you're gentler uh, in your communication and your words, you'll find that you get things what a lot more of what you need will come your way. So, I want to wrap it up. I'm just kind of rambling here. I apologize. So let's close this out with a call to action. So, all right, here we go. That's it for today's episode. Gentlemen, lead with confidence. Ladies, communicate with clarity. Together, we will build connections that feel effortless and fulfilling. If you've enjoyed this episode, hit subscribe, share it with your friends, and let's keep these conversations going. Let me know if there's a topic that you want. The next topic is actually going to be on understanding the women's menstruation cycle. We've got lots of hormones that surge over those 28 days. And men, if you understand it and know hers, you will find great success there. And I know most of us women know ours, but it's always a good reminder too, because when your peak surges of, it's usually the progesterone that we love, you're going to find that these are the times that you want to schedule kind of some of your bigger meetings, work meetings, events when you're feeling your best. And then try to kind of avoid some of the bigger events when you are in your menstruation time. We all know that, but these are the tips that can really help us thrive. So, with that, I am sending you so much love. And remember that to be good to each other and have lots of gratitude. And I'm going to end it with that. We'll see you next time.